Thank you so much for joining us today for this NGen and SOSCIP collaborative webinar on industry journeys using data to optimize your manufacturing operations. Today we have an informative session for you. Very quickly going through the agenda, we'll just be doing a welcome and introduction. My colleague Arthur Kong will be giving a quick overview on NGen. Then we will go into a moderated panel discussion, and that panel discussion will take place with three leaders in the manufacturing industry that are here today. And then we move on to the question and answer session. And that question and answer session is to allow you to ask questions of the panelists here today. We'll then go into an overview of SOSCIP and the platforms that SOSCIP have that can support your journey in this optimization goal. So moving forward, I'm just going to very briefly ask my colleague, Arthur Kong, if he could provide an overview of NGen. I think Arthur may be having some technical difficulties. So what we'll do is we'll move into the curated panel session right now. And that will make it a lot easier for moving forward. So today we wanted to give you information on this journey of how does data help in my manufacturing plant? What's this about? Where am I on this journey, and how can I actually take advantage of some of the platforms that are around to support? So today we have got three industry leaders that are looking at manufacturing within their plant, or sorry, manufacturing and data within their plant, or they are helping support the journey of manufacturers expedite data for their journey. So first off, I'll just do the introductions of the bios to everybody here, and then each one of them will have about 2 to 3 minutes to just give you a quick overview on where they are in that journey and how they are moving forward. So first joining us, we have Annette Langhammer, who is with NMC Dynaplast. Annette has been with NMC Dynaplast since 2004. She steadily worked through the ranks from a program manager, engineering manager, and now is their director of advanced engineering, a position she's held since 2010, focusing on assisting customers migrate to high-performing thermoplastic materials, including lightweighting, design flexibility, recyclability, and performance improvements. Before joining NMC Dynaplast, she was at Magna Exterior Systems, holding several positions in the tool room, tool estimating, program management, injection molding, stamping, extrusion, comb plating, and part development. So she really has walked the floor of manufacturing. Annette has a BA of Economics from York University and has an Ontarian Toolmaker certificate. Next on the panel, we have Jeff Petraka. As co-founder of LabsCubed, Jeff has helped to bring the company from an idea to a reality. LabsCubed is a VC-backed startup and has sold and installed robots in industry-leading material labs across North America. Jeff spearheaded the design of the original LabsCubed prototypes and continues to lead the R&D strategy of the company. He holds a mechanical engineering and masters in management science, both from the University of Waterloo. And our third panelist today is from Autometrics Manufacturing Technologies. As founder of Autometric, Mike Mohensi and his team leverage machine learning and deep understanding of manufacturing workflows to enable a scalable system to avoid defects and quality assurance for all parts. This technology brings manufacturers a centralized platform for process level quality management of all welding cells across the company in a broad range of complex manufacturing locations. With a Bachelor of Applied Science and Engineering from Sharif University of Technology and an MSc in Engineering and Mechanical Engineering and PhD in Composites Manufacturing, both from the University of British Columbia, Mike's professional work on machine learning for engineering design and doctoral studies on lean manufacturing in the aerospace industry inspired a technology to automate process quality management via machine learning. So you've heard a lot about machine learning and automation in these bios, and that's really why we wanted to bring this panel today, to open up the opportunity for them to share their experience in using data as a tool to enhance their process and product quality. So without further ado, I am going to ask Annette if she would just give a 2 to 3 minute overview of herself and NMC Dynaplast. Over to you, Annette.
Thank you very much, Jillian, and thank you for hosting this panel and having Dynaplast present. So the journey to data is very, very important to Dynaplast. We're a manufacturing company, one of several in the National Molding Group of companies. We have about 62 molding machines, a lot of secondary processes. We have about 170 employees. And the management of data, the connectivity of data is becoming more and more relevant every day, because we're running 3 shifts, 5 days a week, often on the weekends, and the ability to communicate, to make good decisions. That's where the data management becomes very, very critical to a manufacturing environment on multiple levels, not only on the plant floor, but also to empower people to make decisions. Right now we're somewhat in our infancy of this journey. We use data, let's say, from an MRP system or ERP system right now, but the more equipment we bring in year over year with our capital investments and infrastructure investments, that equipment has the ability to connect and create and provides data. And what we really need to do is to figure out how to use that data effectively, efficiently, not only to build our company, grow our company, but also to make it more streamlined. And that's where we are right now. So we're ready to go to put the building blocks together to figure out how we're going to execute all this.
Wow. That's fantastic, Annette. Thank you for sharing that one. We're now going to jump into Jeff and LabsCube. So Jeff, would you give us a quick overview of LabsCube and where you are in your journey?
Absolutely. Just first things first. You can hear me? Good? Unmute? Okay, perfect. Okay, so yeah, I can give a bit of overview of what we do and what our customers do. So we help companies make new and innovative materials, and to understand that, you have to first look into how materials are created. So it's a very iterative process. Think a recipe, you test that recipe, you see how it performs, you use those insights or data to then make the next iteration. So this could last, 100 times or 1,000 times. But really what it comes down to is you're testing every iteration to guide the next one, right? So in the industry right now, that's a super manual process. Picture someone sitting at a machine all day, loading samples, taking the data, loading samples, taking the data. So that's where we first focused, where we automated the biggest pain points. And we really not only took the labor out of it, but it also improves the data quality. And we also put a huge emphasis on IoT to store that data. So it's quite antiquated in industry. It's still pretty common to see a floppy disk. And when they're not using a floppy disk, there's writing stuff down on paper every day. So this leads to a huge issue of siloing. So now you have data here, data there, data, and imagine again, like we're selling to large chemical companies. So they might have 40 locations globally or something, right? So really what we're trying to do is automate those processes, bring that data to a central spot where you know how the data was produced, it's reliable, it's high quality, and then they can use that to inform their manufacturing process or their development. And typically there's going to be two areas where they use this data. One is in quality, one is in development. So either you're making a new material or you're trying to look into your manufacturing process of things you're currently selling, right? Where this is changing in industry is there's a more and more emphasis on this data. And a big reason why is because we're on polymers, and that's what we're focused on. So initially elastomers with our first product, the Cube 1, and then our second product, the Cube 5, which is for plastics, is being launched next month in Germany. That entire space is being reimagined because of the focus on sustainability. It's a huge issue now. All these companies have huge initiatives to make more sustainable plastics, biodegradable, whatever it may be. And that new development is going to be very data driven. And that's where we're trying to, or where we're really putting our emphasis in, is to help that transition. So the automation, the data it produces, and then bringing all that data together to really accelerate material development, because that's the true value we want to bring at the end of the day.
Wow. And I didn't realize floppy disks were still
Oh,
around.
yeah.
So I have a flashback to my youth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we're going to move forward, and I'm going to invite Mike Mohseni from Autometrics to just give a brief overview of where his company is and how they can help in this journey.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julian. Thanks for the intro and having us. Mike Mohseni, I am founder at Autometrics. We are an industrial AR company who helps automotive manufacturers improve quality in real time. We make sensor and AI-based software that helps them to look for essentially quality in real time and catch any issues early on. To be more specific about our core product that we are commercializing at the moment is it replicates eyes of an experienced welder. So we know that, for example, welders, human welders, are always looking for quality versus looking for errors and defects after it becomes an issue. And that's what our patent pending system is doing with machine learning and AR. So we extract, we get and analyze those process level quality signals for manufacturers to enable them better see essentially their process at a very detailed level and prevent any issues that could lead to defects. About our industry, right now we are serving automotive industry. We are working with large, mostly tier ones in North America, US, Canada, Mexico. But as probably is going to come up today, we have put together this high-performing industrial level platform for real-time data collection and analytics that you're looking to also take it to other processes and industries, from plasma cutting and laser welding to shipbuilding and battery cell manufacturing. So that's us.
Excellent. So now we are going to put the panel to work. We're going to ask some questions that we have for each panelist. So what I will do is, if I will pin the panelists, so just give me one moment, and then what I will do is I will ask some questions that we've got, and generally just look at who could be a good person to respond to each question. So the first question I'm actually going to throw out, I'm going to ask Annette, since you talked about your journey and why you were looking at data. So what's changed about your industry or business trend that made you decide to explore the use of data in your manufacturing process?
Okay, thank you. I mean, the bottom line is to stay competitive. We live in a high cost country. Dynaplast does ship globally, so we're really in a way honored that we're able to ship back to Asia or to Europe, and to remain competitive and create more focus on a niche market. We have to be able to use data smartly in order to optimize, or let's say streamline every area of our business. So what has changed? COVID changed the supply chain management. We work with high temperature performance materials, which can cost anywhere from $5 a pound US to $50. So having data at your fingertips that help you manage that inventory or that supply chain more, let's say, more optimally, to put into to the hands of our employees, the data coming off real time. Right now, we are collecting data off of our ERP system, so we have real-time data. But how do we use that data to really look at improvements to reduce scrap, to increase our uptime, and usually, I mean, with the whole approach to data, the saying always was, "In God we trust, everybody else bring data." We a big part of our let's say of our niche procedures here at Dynaplast is to take a lot of CAD data and convert that into, or reverse profile the tool steel. So we know that with data, and I think Jeff or Mike mentioned that, the manual manipulation of data, it creates areas for inaccuracies or mistakes. So being able to take the data, let's say that the new equipment can generate, and having that then translate into valuable information that can make more accurate decisions. The tight labor market is another area. I mean, everyone is having difficulty finding highly skilled people. But again, with the data, what we really want to achieve is the empowerment and the confidence and the psychological aspect of putting more decision-making process, our opportunities into our employees. So it's really far-fetching. One thinks, well, data is going to grow your business, but it's going to have not only contribute to the growth, but streamline your operations and also improve the, let's say, the quality of life at work, which again, we're going through that whole global transition in the job market, what people really want to do at work. They want to do stuff that's engaging, that's and stimulating. It's not taking data and doing nothing with it, or the wrong decisions. It just doesn't build confidence.
So really, global pressure and workforce retention and attraction.
Well, yeah, the pressure, obviously, it's because we still focus on shipping our products globally, is how to again, how to stay competitive in a global and also local marketplace.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Annette. I appreciate that one. Now I'm going to turn the spotlight on Jeff. So Jeff, you were mentioning, you know, some of the steps that you were taking, but what were some of the initial hesitations that you had before you started this journey?
Yeah.
You know, how did you overcome these?
So there was two major hesitations. So one is the industry is very old school, just material development in general, and it is starting to change. Like where you'll see a lot of the innovation is more on, say, something like 3D printing. Like that's where you'll have kind of a lot of new work and like sustainability, like I mentioned before. But the heart of the industry is very old. When we took an early tour of one of these facilities that was producing rubber, the guy at the end of the production line bit the rubber. That's how they tested if it was good. Someone actually took a piece of the rubber and bit it. And they're like, it's good or it's not good. And that was how they did it. So material as a whole is becoming very data driven, but it's still very entrenched industry. And that's kind of where, you know, again, we're trying to come in and change that. And it's really about finding those champions. The other hesitation I would say we had, and this was a huge one for us, was creating the hardware, because hardware development is hard, it's expensive, it takes a lot of time. And as a startup, that's all we kept hearing over and over again is it's really, really hard to make hardware. Software, not to say software is easy, it has its own challenges, but hardware is just that much slower and that much more capital intensive. But when we looked at the problem as a whole, it seemed like hardware was really the only way to do it, because you need that data coming off to be reliable. And I think, as Annette mentioned as well, if you have an operator logging it down, like who knows if it's accurate? They may record it incorrectly. It may, quite frankly, if you talk to a lot of people who work in AI and stuff as well, with big data sets, you find out maybe some tests were faked or maybe some inaccurate things to get things passed. So stuff like that happens. So you really need confidence in where it's coming from. Early days, first prototype we dropped off, a company really helped us out, let us go in their lab. And I always have this vision of, they had a lab of probably about, 25 machines in there, like test apparatuses. And each machine had its own Windows PC. So there's 25 Windows PCs, probably running 30 different versions of Windows. And there was just this blue glow coming off the lab as they were closing the lab down from all the Windows machines. It's all, again, disconnected. So the hesitation for us was, do we actually want to develop the hardware and take the really, really hard approach? And it's ultimately what we decided to do, because the way we looked at it is you look at more like a Trojan horse kind of thing, where if you can meet their need with the hardware, then you can start really selling them on the data and all the connectivity that comes along with that. But the key is to get in there and show what you can do by having a connected machine, right? By again, putting that data in the proper place in the proper format.
So again, it's that demonstration piece. It's making sure that you can show how the accuracy can impact quality control, time to market, etc. That's
absolutely
great. Thank you. Mike, you were mentioning about your partner organization, working with the automotive industry. What has been the main driver in your partner organization making use of this data? Was it, like Annette said, to remain competitive? Was it just what Jeff mentioned about the cost reduction, efficiency and quality control? What were you hearing from the manufacturing partner that you were working with, Mike?
Well, short answer, competitiveness. That's all. It's a very competitive market when we talk about tier one or supplier industry. But at the core of it, quite frankly, this competitiveness comes from efficiency and cost reduction. To give you an idea, you can roughly estimate that 10 to 30% of the operational cost in automotive manufacturing, at least tier one, is coming from cost of quality. So whatever procedures or mitigation strategies, whatever they have, and that is a huge cost within an industry that the profit margin is normally 3 to 4%. So if they can even slightly save on that 10 to 30%, is a huge, not only it's a huge benefit profit-wise, but also they lower the total cost, and that makes them competitive in eyes of OEMs for essentially their clients. So I would say yes, they have to leverage new technologies, new strategies all the time to reduce costs. But at the end, it definitely contributes to their competitiveness. So that keeps automotive industry very much motivated to use data, and these days use data intelligently.
So from that work that you've been doing with them, Mike, really, if you were to go back, you know, in that experience that you've had, what would some of the lessons learned that you've had from, you know, your partner perspective and from Automatic's, you know, perspective, what would you say some of those experiences or lessons learned are if you were wanting to translate that onto the wider manufacturing sector?
Sure. So I can give you two answers, actually. From technical perspective, I just want to second Jeff's point about hardware, how difficult it is to get the hardware for data transfer and data collection right. For us, getting that right in industrial setup was a huge challenge. And I don't want to say we underestimated at the beginning, but definitely we spent our fair share of time on it, like as much as probably we spent on the development of the AI brain. So I would say this is probably some also advice for fellow founders. But from business perspective, I would say if I go back, I would spend more time on targeting specific problems within the market and targeting specific clients. For example, welding is very common in multiple industries, but targeting automotive earlier would have really helped Autometrics probably save a lot of time in terms of business developments at the very least. And quite frankly, when now we talk to automotive and other markets, even like shipbuilding or battery cell manufacturing, one of the issues that AI companies even today have is offering a platform versus offering to solve a very specific problem. So I'm glad that we had that insight through our great advisor at the beginning. But that's another thing I would probably expand on if I'm to start even a new route for Autometrics.
That's key information. And I'm actually going to flip back to Jeff, because Jeff, obviously you've started this journey, you're at the infancy of this journey. You know, what do you wish that you knew that you could pass on to your customers at the start of their journey?
So for us, and kind of to Mike's point as well, where it was which companies to target, for us, what we found and what I wish we knew much earlier is the resistance from some of these companies to buy into this. So where we kind of found that sweet spot is medium-sized companies. So large companies, like, our customers could be anyone from a major national chemical producer to, say, someone producing a finished product like a rubber hose or something. But those large companies are very protective of their data. They don't want it leaving the premises. They see it as their IP, but at the same time, they have all these great initiatives to, we're going to do all this stuff with the data and all this AI, but hey, you can't look at any of it. Even, you know, when you get into companies too that have military contracts, we're in a few military labs, like we have to, they literally have to remove the hard drive for us to service it. Things like that kind of level of data protection. So the small companies, they usually don't have like micro-sized companies. They probably don't have enough motivation to make this kind of purchase, but there's this sweet size of medium-sized companies where they might have, 3 or 4 locations, a few hundred employees. They understand the value in it. They want to become more competitive. They want to grow, but they're small enough that 1 or 2 people can champion that initiative through. And they're much more open to trying things out and giving it a go and seeing how it goes, right? So specifically on the data side, that's what I wish we knew. So rather than, I'm not going to list names, but we spend a lot of time talking to large companies where we just hear, this is great, this is great, this is great. And it's just, there's roadblocks at every step where we probably really could have accelerated that product and really got that real world feedback. How do we just kind of change who we were targeting?
Excellent. Yeah. So lots of roadblocks that you had to overcome. So again, going back to what you were saying earlier, that's where not having that plug and play solution, but actually working with other infrastructure partners, hardware installation, having all of the resources around you is beneficial in ensuring some of those barriers are eradicated at the start. So with that in mind, I'm very quickly going to, flip on to the last question I've got for the panel, but I'm conscious that we're not just here to talk to the panel, we want to hear from the audience. So if you have questions for any of the panelists here or NGen or SOSCIP, please feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat, and we will address them shortly, because we're just going to get one more question from the panel, and then we are turning it to you to ask questions about, your journey and how you could potentially eradicate some of these barriers to installing data as a key driver for your manufacturing success. So Annette, I want to ask you, you're at the very start, you're trying to understand the data, you're trying to understand what you have and what you can move forward with. So Annette, can you tell me, what people have you reached out to? What people are you looking at in terms of giving you some of this information, that's going to set you up for success in this journey? Are there external resources or external partners that you're working with on this?
Well, to be quite honest with you, as we reviewed this journey, or we realized that we have to take this journey, the first person actually that came to mind is Rebecca, who we called. We had a very successful previous working relationship between Rebecca was able to broker between industry and academia. So we know that there's a network of let's say academia at the college level, at the university level, that we can tap into. And reflecting on that, I mean, Dynaplast does have a steady stream of co-ops here from local university and colleges every quarter. So we want to be able to not only tap into the co-op, but also into the, let's say, the higher level that development that would be required with data analytics. So first person we called is Rebecca, and we're fairly confident that through these relationships or the networking, that we'll get local support to help us, and that in turn helps again the local colleges and universities, because you're creating, they're solving challenges for local industry. They're the and academia actually realizes, hey, there's a local job market. No need to go outside of the country, because we want to keep the jobs here. Yeah. So it's, yeah. I mean, we know that we have the capabilities here through NGen or through SOSCIP to help us, to partner with us, to move forward on this.
Fantastic. And Mike, I'm actually going to flip over to you, because you've tried and tested, you've commercialized that data. You have, been working with manufacturing companies on that. So can I ask you, when you're talking to, these customers, what would you say would be the infrastructure that's there, apart from the colleges and universities, because that's just, to me, that's just a great place to start. But what else is out there that you can advise some companies that would be available to them?
I see. So yeah, quite frankly, I mean, I'm talking from heavy industries perspective. So commercial airframe manufacturing, pipeline, automotive. And what has happened in the past probably 5-6 years was this rise of the increasing awareness about data infrastructure, and intelligent solutions in general. So, and I think that's a sort of opportunity for Autometrics, because when we started Autometrics, a lot of these large companies had experience at least a one or two sort of a project. So if I want to advise an SME or smaller companies who haven't done this, I would say honing on that problem that you're solving or want to solve is the most important aspect of the whole data journey, because more than often what happens is, this is actual true story, that there is this actually aerospace company who were getting data all over the place, like hundreds of sensors all over the place, and it was just raw data, but there wasn't any insight that, okay, what are we going to solve with this data? And it turned out that a lot of that data could not be actualized as a product or a problem solver. So I would say consulting with those who are familiar with data, IoT systems, and AI machine learning from early on is very important to get the whole roadmap right. And in that perspective, I think organizations like NGen are very helpful in terms of creating that partnership between, and that's what actually happened for us early on as well. And we leveraged that partnership actually for our product development, which was us going to a manufacturer and talking about AI data from our perspective and them from their problem perspective. So yeah, I would say any conversation around the problem that you're trying to solve early on would be the best.
So what I heard you say there is manufacturers know what they know. They know what problem they are trying to solve. But ultimately, when they don't know what they don't know in terms of, access for, data infrastructure, information, etc., there's lots of resources out there. I mean, you heard from Annette with respect to resources on, SOSCIP and NGen. You heard about the academic resources that are out there and the industry academic collaboration piece that's available. You also heard about, other aspects and other intelligence systems that are available, through all these avenues. So what I want to do now is I would like to turn it over to the audience and see if there are any questions, for our panelists. I'm sure there's lots going through your mind right now in terms of what does this all mean for me? So I want to just recap while you're thinking about your question. I want to recap on some of the things that I've heard from the panelists that I've just been scribbling down. So I've heard about global pressures, the fact that global competitiveness, in other words, to stay competitive in today's global market, you need to start looking at your data and seeing how that can work for you. It's all around quality control, accuracy, and confidence in that accuracy, rather than, biting rubber or, actually, as I learned from my background experience, looking at, a meat product and the color of the meat product, does that look right? There's other key aspects there in terms of, competitiveness. You heard the statistic from Mike about between 10 to 30%. That's huge when you bring it into the double figures rather than just those single figure accuracy points. Hardware, you'll hear from Rebecca very shortly on, some of the hardware infrastructure that's available. And I loved what Mike and Jeff reiterated when they were saying about offering a platform, but offering a platform that solves that problem. So again, going back to what I said earlier, it's not about the plug and play, because that might not actually solve your problem. It's about understanding what that problem is and working with the infrastructure around you to see where the right partner and the right fit is to work collaboratively to get that gain. So working on collaboration, I'm actually going to turn it to my colleague, Arthur Kong. Arthur had some technical issues earlier, so we're now going to ask Arthur if he would like to come online and just give you a very quick 2 to 3 minute overview of NGen and what we're doing to help you, the manufacturing community. Arthur.
Hi, Jillian. Hi, everybody. Apologies for the technical difficulties earlier, but I'll share my screen right now so everyone can see. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah, we can. Could you put it on slide share, Arthur, please?
For sure, for sure. Okay. All right. So for those of you who do not know NGen, to give you a quick introduction, we are an industry-led not-for-profit organization that's been tasked by the federal government to implement their Advanced Manufacturing Global Innovation Cluster, or formerly known as Super Cluster program. And our mandate is to help build and enhance Canada's advanced manufacturing capabilities by enabling the development, commercialization, and deployment of advanced technologies across the many manufacturing verticals that we have here in Canada. And we do so through 5 main functions. We help promote Canadian capabilities. We help be that connector in the ecosystem and help catalyze partnerships and create collaboration. We help provide funding for collaborative R&D projects and develop innovative subclusters within various subsectors across the different manufacturing verticals. We help build upskill our current manufacturing workforce and help build a rich pipeline of talent for the next gen workforce. And last but not least, we do a lot of work in helping to modernize the current manufacturing footprint that we have in Canada through tech adoption. We're a member-based organization, so we currently have over 5,000 members across Canada, ranging from manufacturers to tech providers to investors and funders, you name it. So we essentially act as like a central hub to, as I mentioned before, to kind of make it work, make this advanced manufacturing ecosystem function and help propel Canada and leapfrog over other jurisdictions. I mentioned we talked a lot about Jillian, or we talked about NGen funding for collaborative R&D projects. As you can see, we had a 5-year agreement over the past 5 years that just came to an end. It's coming to an end, so a lot of the funding has been fully committed. So we did, for example, in late 2021, executed a zero emission vehicle manufacturing challenge that was hugely successful. We received over $180 million worth of project applications, and we funded over 16 projects. Some exciting opportunities coming up in the fall and in the coming months. We're going to launch an AI for manufacturing challenge, and in a new fiscal year, great news in that NGen is expected to bring in new funding, and we're expected to focus a lot more on areas that will align with the federal government's policy priorities, including on climate change mitigation and net zero manufacturing. So on maybe another round of funding for zero emission vehicles, on industrial decarbonization, and more funding on sector agnostic advanced manufacturing development as well. I'm going to quickly go over this. As Jillian mentioned, we have an AI for manufacturing challenge coming up. So we are expecting to develop $50 million worth of industry and industry-led projects. And we're looking for projects that are focused on the commercialization of AI applications in manufacturing. And these projects must include 2 industry partners, 1 manufacturing, 1 AI provider. And this is to be confirmed, but we're looking for projects between $2 and $8 million range. But that number could change and fluctuate depending on what we decide at the end of the day. But most importantly, there are 3 important dates for you to take note of. Next month, we are expecting to have a briefing event. On November 8th, we will have a collaboration event where folks can come to the table to pitch and find partners, potential partners to take part in our AI manufacturing challenge. And we expect to have the applications due into us by mid-March. Again, that date is tentative, and we'll provide more details as they come. So, some quick eligible areas. but I won't go into detail. I only have 5 minutes. So if you guys have any project ideas, feel free to reach out to myself or my colleagues, Stephanie, Roshan, and Blake. Happy to chat for it. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Arthur. Now, we actually do have a question that came through. We have a question, and I'm actually going to start by asking Jeff.
Sure.
So Jeff, how do you protect your data when it moves in and out of the facility?
Okay, so the first question is whether they're Canadian or American, or if it's agnostic. So that's our first. We have two separate instances set up where our American customers stay American, our Canadian stay Canadian. But for us, it's really just, I mean, it's kind of built into the machine. We're AWS. I wouldn't say there's anything too unconventional there. It's kind of like mostly conventional methods to do that. So any sort of IoT device that's uploading to the cloud and just using those practices. But the main thing for us would be separating instances because for legal reasons, data cannot cross the border a lot of the times.
Well, it's always going to be Canadian when you're talking to NGen. Come
Yeah.
on. But yeah, no, that's perfect. Thank you. Anything from your side, Mike, in terms of what you've seen from the protection of the data?
Yeah, so when it comes to, again, heavy industry, that you probably heard a lot in the news about, let's call them mishaps, but ransoms, those things. So that kind of created a concern within our industry, especially automotive, with regards to cloud applications. So we maintained everything on premise, and also from the feedback that we continue to get, that is the preference when it comes to their process data, and when we are talking about the quality of their part, essentially production line. So that's from our end, to maintain everything on premise. For us, also our system is able to perform what it is supposed to on premise. So yeah, from automotive perspective, that is the preference.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Seeing no other questions, I'm actually going to now move on with the agenda and ask my esteemed colleague from SOSCIP, Rebecca Tran, if Rebecca would just give us an overview of SOSCIP and how you are helping companies like NMC Dynaplast and others within the Canadian manufacturing community on the hardware and the infrastructure for that data piece. Over to you, Rebecca.
Well, thank you to my esteemed colleague, Jillian, for doing such a wonderful job moderating today's session and doing the heavy lifting. And thank you to the panelists for being such great team players for participating. I'm Rebecca from SOSCIP, and I'm part of the Partnerships and Business Development team. As Jillian mentioned, we are a technology provider. I am also joined today by my colleague, with my colleague Fei Mao, who our technical lead. So should there be questions in the audience that are a little bit more technical, I'm happy to pass them on over to Fei. But SOSCIP we're a consortium. We're a group of both industry and academia. That's the world we play in. You know, we've been in the innovation ecosystem for about a decade now as a technology partner. Our main goal and sort of objective is bringing computing infrastructure to help advance research and accelerate commercialization in all things relating to computing and data science. So that's your machine learning, AI, et cetera. It's important to note that, you know, while we are focusing on advanced manufacturing in today's discussion, we are sector agnostic. And I think that the other takeaway that we can all grasp on from today's discussion is when it comes to data, really, you know, that's part of the core of every company today. So I really appreciate it. And really the premise of today's webinar is to have industry leaders like Annette, Jeff, and Mike share their journey and their stages, their barriers. So I really appreciated the macro conversation about global, pressures and staying competitive. But how do we help companies at various stages? And SOSCIP's platforms, we have 3, including our cloud analytics for those that are sort of doing early data analytics, trying to understand their data, make sense of it, to our high performance computing platforms like our parallel CPU and our accelerated GPU platforms for those that are doing more complex and deep machine learning and AI. It is quite the range, but I think what that offers is, doesn't matter at what stage you're at in your journey, whether you are just starting out to understand what data you have, how to find the good one, even before we think about looking at insights and predictive analytics and whatnot. That is definitely where SOSCIP can come in to help. We subscribe to the "it takes a village" and striving together model. We're amongst peers today on this webinar. We know that navigating the system alone is probably not advisable. I think at this point it's not the easiest, but that's why we're here. And so the partnership between SOSCIP and NGen makes all the sense. Makes all the sense to partner together to make sure that whether it is access to technological platforms that you need to tap into, whether it's funding, network, and even just in platforms like this where companies can speak with other companies to understand their journey. I think there was some really great advice shared amongst the 3 panelists today. That's what we're here to do. So we do support our world is about bringing academia and industry together, but we've also, of course, recognized the need to support companies directly. So I think that in the past 10 years, we've learned a lot. So if you're interested in learning more or have questions, please feel free to connect, and I'll leave it there. Back over to you, Jillian.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. So before we end, I'm just going to quickly share my screen again. I just want to say a huge thank you to our 3 panelists today, Annette, Jeff, and Mike. Thank you so much for joining us today. Your insight was incomprehensible in terms of giving us those roadmap ideas, the why we should do this, and the first steps as to how we should do this. Fortunately, I didn't use the same quote as Rebecca, but the quote that I actually brought for this is actually from a very good, I would say, leader, because I'm a big Ford Motor fan. So it is coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, but working together is success. And as you heard from Rebecca, collaboration is where NGen and SOSCIP really want to see, the companies in Canada excelling and moving forward. Each one of those companies that you heard from today, no matter what stage of the journey they were at, they talked about working collaboratively, whether it's with an academic, an industry resource, or a government-funded resource. These are all areas that we as the collective can help you in your manufacturing data journey. So please don't hesitate to reach out to anybody that you saw on the screen today. My name is Gillian Sheldon, always happy to take questions. My colleague Arthur Kong, Blake Helka, and Stephanie Holka are online. Arthur gave you their email addresses, but please feel free to reach out if it's anything that is NGen related. And Rebecca is the lead from the SOSCIP side, so she would be very happy to support you on the installation and hardware side. Thank you again. I hope you found this informative, and please have a fantastic rest of the day and look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you.